Hey guys, Marcus Melnick here with Firearm Mentor. Hope you're enjoying my YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. These little things are free to you and really help the channel. I appreciate your support. Enjoy. Thank you.
The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters. Greetings and welcome back to the Personal Safety Show. This is Marcus Melnick from Firearm Mentor and Stress Through Logic, your host. And in the first part of our episode, we were talking about the principles of personal defense by Jeff Cooper, and we talked about alertness, decisiveness, and aggressiveness. Now we're going to talk about speed. Principle 4 is speed, which is the absolute essence of any form of combat, from a fencing match to the Six-Day War. Absence of speed is what history will probably decide what caused us to lose in Vietnam. Napoleon said, "I may lose a battle, but I'll never lose a minute." Personal defense speeds this up. We must say, "I may lose this fight, but I will not lose this second." Apparently, overwhelming strength is of no importance if it is not brought to bear before it is preempted. In our Old West, it was said, "Do unto others as they would do unto you, but do it first." Amen. Here, again, this essay deals purely with defense. Neither the law or morality justifies our flattening someone just because we think they might attack us. However, on the very instant that we know that our assailant intends us serious physical harm, we must work just as fast as he can. If he shot at us, we must hit him before he can shoot again. If he's holding us by threat of force, we have the edge of reaction time over him. Action time always beats reaction time. The stake in personal defense is your life. You can't afford to play by sporting rules. Be fast, not fair. Be offside on the play. No referee will call it back. The perfect fight is one that's over before the loser really understands what's going on. The perfect defense is a counterattack that succeeds before the assailant discovers that he has bitten off more than he can chew. Therefore, if you're attacked and retaliate instantly, be sudden, be quick. Speed is your salvation. Principle 5 is coolness, and if firearms are used, precision. You must keep your head. If you lose your cool under a deadly attack, you'll probably not survive to make excuses. So don't bother to improvise any. Just keep your head. Anger, as long as it's controlled anger, is no obstacle to efficiency. Self-control is one thing the sociopath does not usually possess. Use yours to do their undoing. If you counterattack with your hands, use them carefully. Remember, a blow with your closed fist to your enemy's head will almost always wreck your hand. A finger in the eye is easier, safer, and will likely to be more decisive. If you improvise a weapon from objects at hand, use it in a way that most likely will do damage without loss or breakage. The point of most improvised weapons, from umbrellas to fire pokers, are usually more effective than the edges, and they can be applied with less warning without the exposure during a wind-up. The blunt point should be aimed directly at the face or throat. Drive it carefully, coolly, and hard. And if you go to my website, firearmmentor.com, I have something on there called the Unbreakable Umbrella. And it is an umbrella, just like you use it any other umbrella, but the shaft on it is made out of titanium and steel and allows it to be used as a baton or other weapon. I could put it on 2 chairs and stand on it, and I'm over 200 pounds. It will not break. Try that with a regular umbrella. It allows you to bring a little bit of a defensive implement into an area, perhaps where firearms are not allowed, or perhaps where there is a metal detector. The optimum defensive arm is a heavy-duty pistol, though a shotgun could surpass it for home defense if there's sufficient warning. If you're fortunate enough to have access to any sort of firearm when under attack, remember, it is only as good as your ability to keep cool and shoot carefully. The pupil previously mentioned did not shoot carefully, and he survived largely through luck alone, because his attacker shot just as sloppily as he did. But we can't count on miserable marksmanship in our enemies. The sociopath is indeed usually a bad shot, but not always. Clyde Barrow was quite good. Another student of Cooper's did far better. To begin with, he heard the approach of the assassin's car in the cold gray light of dawn. He was alert even at that hour. He was on his feet immediately, pistol in hand. Through the blinds, he saw two men coming rapidly up the walk to his door, one with a shotgun and one with a machine pistol. He decided that such a visit with such equipment at such an hour needed no further explanation. He flung open the front door and went to work, and he remembered to remain cool and to shoot with precision. The two would-be murderers died in their tracks. The householder caught 6 pellets of birdshot in the leg. The attackers outnumbered and outgunned their proposed victim, but they were defeated and destroyed by a man who did everything right. When an expensively trained police officer from one of the larger police departments misses a felon 6 times at a range of 10 feet, and don't think this doesn't happen, his failure is not due to technical inability to hit a target of that size at that distance, because they demonstrate that on the firing range. The failure often is the consequent death, which is due to lack of concentration upon marksmanship and loss of cool. The ability to remain cool under pressure comes more easily to some than to others, but it is in no sense out of anyone's reach. In fact, it's the first qualification of a person who Kipling calls for in his immortal poem. If it is illustrated beautifully, every time you see a quarterback calmly select and hit his receiver while under the threat of more than 1,000 pounds of rock-hard, cat-quick muscle, only a step away. It's a matter of will. If you know that you can keep your head, and that you must keep your head, you probably will keep your head. To train yourself to do this takes some thought. Certain kinds of athletics are excellent. Football, of course, in particular. Sailing, flying, motor racing, mountaineering are also good. But one of the best of them all is hunting. Buck fever is a classic affliction, and a man who has conquered it can be guaranteed to shoot carefully under pressure. While it is true that a deer is not shooting back, this is less significant than it might first appear. The deer is about to vanish, and odd as it seems, the fear of sporting failure is usually greater than the fear of death. This startling point is easy to prove. The average competitive pistol shot works and trains far harder to earn a little brass cup than the average policeman works and trains to acquire a skill that can save his life, her life, or the life of a citizen. Not all hunters make the grade. The woods are full of dudes in red jackets and orange jackets, but the expert hunter rifleman is very good to have on your side. Under any sort of attack, keep cool, and if you must shoot, shoot with precision. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about the 6th principle, ruthlessness. I want my listeners to know that this is my dream, teaching people about safety. If it weren't for you, if it weren't for my listeners, I couldn't live my dream. So on behalf of my family and myself, I want to thank each and every one of you for allowing me to live my dream. And I also want to continue to live my dream, and I'm excited to continue to spread the word of safety. Recently, I began a new service as a conference keynote speaker. So if anyone would like for me to speak at future events, or if anyone knows of an introduction or would like to discuss how we can work with one another, I'd love to do just that. The keynote speaking website is www.stress2logic.com. That is STRESS2logic.com. If you're aware of any conference speaking engagements where you'd like to have me speak, I'd love an introduction. You can always share my electronic business card, which is Marcus Melnick, MarcusMelnick.com. Now, back to the show. And we're back from the break. Thank you very much for staying tuned. The next principle of self-defense is going to be ruthlessness. Anyone who is willfully and maliciously attacking another without sufficient cause deserves no consideration. While both moral and legal precepts enjoin us against so-called overreaction, we are fully justified in valuing the life and person of an intended victim more highly than the life of an assailant. The attacker must be stopped at once and completely. Who they are, why they've chosen to be a criminal, their social background, ideological or physiological motivation, and extent of injury that they incur as a result of their acts, these all may be considered at some future date. But now, your first concern is to stay alive. Let your attacker worry about his life. Don't hold back. Strike no more after they are incapable of further action, but see that they are stopped. The law forbids you to take revenge, but it does permit you to prevent. What you do to prevent further felonious assault, as long as the felon is still capable of action, is justified. So make sure and do not be restrained by considerations of the forbearance. They can get you killed. An armed person, especially if they're armed with a firearm, is dangerous as long as they are conscious. Take no chances. Stop the attack. If you must use your hands, use them with all the strength that you possess. Tapping your assailant half-heartedly for fear of hurting him will indeed make him mad, and since he has already shown that he is willing to kill you, he may even try harder now that you've struck him a painful, though indecisive, blow. If you choose to strike, by all means, strike hard. This also applies to shooting. If you are justified in shooting, you're justified in killing. In all but a few quite obvious circumstances, don't try to be fancy. Shoot for the center of mass. The world is full of decent people. Criminals we can do without. We often hear it said, especially by certain police spokespeople, who seems to know better, that in the event of a victimization, the victim should offer no resistance for fear of arousing his assailant. Perhaps we should ignore the craven exhortation to cowardice made here. Honor may in truth be an obsolete word. So let us consider the only results. The Sharon Tate party did not resist. The Starkweather victims did not resist. The LaBiancans did not resist. Mitrione did not resist. And the next time some expert tells me not to resist, I may become abusive. Apart from the odds that you will be killed anyway if you submit to threats of violence, it would seem, especially in today's world of permissive atrocity, that it may be your social duty to resist. The law seems completely disinclined to discourage violent crime. When the sociopath who attacks you has little to fear from either the police or the courts, the chief of police of our capital city has stated in print, his capital city, this is Jeff Cooper's, quote, "The greatest real and immediate hazard that the hold-up man faces is the possibility that his victim may be armed and might shoot the criminal." And this was in U.S. News & World Report from December 8th, 1969, page 35. The syntax is a little garbled, but the meaning is clear. If violent crime is to be curbed, it is only the intended victim who can do it. The felon does not fear the police. He fears neither the judge nor the jury. Therefore, what he must be taught is to fear his victim. If a felon attacks you and lives, he'll reasonably conclude that they can do it again. By submitting to them, you not only imperil your own life, but you jeopardize the lives of others. The first man who resisted Starkweather after 11 murders overcame him easily and without injury. If that man had been the first, it's possible that 11 innocent people could have been spared. The coddling of murderers has brought us to an evil pass. If it's truly a wise and just policy, which we may have serious reason to doubt, leave it to the courts. When your life is in danger, forget it. If you find yourself under lethal attack, don't be kind, be harsh, be tough, and be ruthless. The seventh and last principle that we're going to be discussing today is surprise. It's put last on purpose, for surprise is the first principle of offensive combat. However, the privilege of striking a first blow is a luxury we must usually, but not always, grant to our attacker. So in a sense, there can be no strategic surprise in defense, but that doesn't mean that the defender cannot achieve tactical surprise. By doing what our assailant least expects us to do, we may throw him completely off. As we have seen, what he usually least suspects is instant, violent counterattack. So the principle of aggressiveness is closely tied to the threat of surprise. One of the most hilarious episodes in recent cinema presents a bank teller debating the spelling of a written demand passed through the wicket by the bank robber. The whole affair shifts from banditry to an argument whether the money can be handed over in the face of such a badly spelled note. But it's far-fetched, but entertaining. The unexpected is disconcerting, and a disconcerted felon is momentarily less in charge of their own thoughts than the moment just before or just after. At that moment, the victim may be able to turn the tables. On a realistic note, in every single successful defense against a violent attack that Jeff Cooper knew of, and he studied this matter for 3 decades, the attacker was totally surprised when the victim did not wilt. The speed, power, efficiency, and aggressiveness of the counterattack varied greatly, but the mere fact of its existence was the most elemental component in success. If you have friends in law enforcement, ask them to tell you the April Fool joke. It's a bit gamey for the publication that he's writing for, but it makes a point, and it's funny. The moral is the moral of the manual. The criminal does not expect his prey to fight back. May he never choose you, but if he does, surprise the heck out of him. There's a purpose to be served by this discussion. The combination of modern medical science and the welfare state has brought about a condition of general overcrowding and boredom, which, magnified by the vast worldwide increases in population, has resulted in an unconscionable drop in personal safety. Before World War II, one could stroll in the parks and streets of the city after dark with hardly anything at risk, at least no more than driving on the highway. A young woman needed no escort. One could safely ask for help on the road. Meeting with another rifleman in the woods was an occasion for camaraderie rather than a red alert, and this isn't true any longer. Today, and for the foreseeable future, the problem of personal risk is much more serious than of yore. Our police do what they can, but they can't protect us everywhere and all the time. All too often, they can't even protect themselves. Your physical safety is up to you, as it has always been. The principles we discussed are the result of a great deal of study and consultation, plus a fair amount of actual experience. Taken to heart, they may save your life. There's always an element of luck in any sort of conflict, and there's no way to guarantee success in every instance. In other words, nothing works 100% of the time on 100% of the people, and we'll discuss this shortly. The victims of more than a dozen or most sickening atrocities that have gained nationwide fame have heeded what they've read. Had they heeded what they read, they would have survived those actions. Additionally, a small but select number of goblins would not be alive today, bounding in and out of courts and costing all the money that could be better spent. George Patton told his officers, "Don't worry about your flanks. Let the enemy worry about his flanks." It's high time for society to stop worrying about the criminal and to let the criminal start worrying about society. And by society, Jeff Cooper means you. So next week, I'm actually doing a little bit of de-escalation training as well as pepper spray training to a local farmer's market who've had some issues in the past with uncooperative, I'll call them customers or visitors, people who've come to the farmer's market. And I'm going to spare details, but basically they felt that they needed training, and I've also rewritten their emergency policies and procedures. One of the things I want to point out that I just kind of read with the Jeff Cooper thing was that not everything works 100% of the time on 100% of the people. Way back when I went through 1995, I went through pepper spray instructor training at the Evanston Police Department. And I had a really good time. And I had to get sprayed for it, and I will tell you that pepper spray worked on me. From the time I got sprayed, I probably had 5 seconds of no pain, and then it hit me, and I did the shock dance type thing where it hit me. And it feels like you're putting your face on the burner of a gas stove. That's what it feels like. In your eyes, in your nose, you get long ropes of mucus hanging out. And there was a police officer in the class I was friends with. He got sprayed a lot, and it didn't affect him. That is a pretty potent thing to be sprayed with pepper spray in the face. So it didn't work for him. And his eyes, it's on video. His eyes are all full of this stuff, and he's like, it doesn't hurt, doesn't hurt. Well, it hurt me. In 1995, I was a young pup. I was 22 years old, and when I brought home the videotape and showed my mother and my sister when I got pepper sprayed, they applauded. Thanks a lot, Mom. Thanks a lot, sis. It was a funny moment. So they have asked me to come back and explain how pepper spray works, and what I ended up doing is I got a can of inert spray. It smells like lemon pledge, but it's supposed to come out like pepper spray. I did this with my wife, and I've done this in training classes. And I'm going to bring a target, several targets actually, and the participants are going to get to spray a can, or spray some of my can of inert stuff at the target, so they actually have the experience of doing so. I'm not going to make everybody get sprayed with pepper spray like I had to. And actually, there's a second time, which I'll share with everyone, when I got sprayed with pepper spray. This was in the mid 96, 97. I was working as a director of branch operations for the fourth largest security company in the nation. Our office happened to be the most profitable one, and it was April 1st. So I had a thing of pepper spray on my keychain, and I left the office to go to Wendy's or Burger King or somewhere to go to lunch. And apparently I walked too close to a goose nest, and this goose came after me. And I said, well, forget it. I sprayed him with pepper spray. Except I didn't spray him with pepper spray. It was a fine mist. I don't recommend the fine mist. I recommend the gel or the foam. In the fine mist, there was a tiny, teeny little breeze, and boom, all that spray went back into my face. So here I am. I'm coughing. I can't see. Now, I know what happened. I know how to decontaminate. I wasn't freaking out, but I was trying to make my way to the bathroom, because the way to disinfect from pepper spray is a lot of cool and cold water, and we don't rub our eyes. We wet the paper towel, we put it on our face, and we peel it off, because if we rub it in, it gets harder and harder to get out. So here's the thing. As you guys know, I have a sense of humor, and I'm a jokester. When I came stumbling back in the office and said I got sprayed with pepper spray, everyone thought I was joking. Until I stumbled into the bathroom coughing and coughing and coughing, and stayed in there for a while, and then I heard people say, oh, maybe he did get sprayed with pepper spray. Of course, I did it to myself, not too bright. But today, I can talk about it with a smile and a little bit of laughter, and hopefully educate other people that if you use an aerosol product outdoors, it's very possible it's going to get into your eyes. If you use an aerosol product indoors, it's very possible it will go into the ventilation system. That's why in hospital security, when they have pepper spray, they don't have the aerosol product, because it could potentially affect the entire hospital. Security officers often have the foam or the gel because it's self-contained. The foam is like the consistency of Barbasol shaving cream, and if you have gel shaving cream like Nivea, that's the consistency of the gel, and a lot of them have a dye in it. So you have this orange or green or red or purple dye in it. There is a color to it. The color that we used, it was like a reddish, pinkish. It washed right off. But if you're going to do that, just make sure you have everything washed off your face. Let me give you a little trick. Baby shampoo. You can use baby shampoo to get chemicals out of your face and mucous membranes, because it does not tear. Local hazardous materials teams on fire departments use baby shampoo. I have some baby shampoo here. And for my full-time job, you can tell I like the media, I make these funny reminder videos where I'm a character. And I was the Incredible Hulk, and I bought this green face makeup. And I used some video from the Avengers, and I became the Hulk in the video. And we were visiting someone in the hospital. Shortly thereafter, my wife and stepson left to go visit. I was 30 minutes behind because I needed the quiet time in the house. And I took a shower after, washed off the makeup, but being colorblind, I can't always see colors. So I showed up to the hospital. I had green makeup on, and I showed up to the hospital, and my face looked yellow. So my brother-in-law was there, and he's looking at me, and people are looking at me down the hall, and they're kind of smiling. And he's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, why? I'm fine." He's like, "You look like you have jaundice." And apparently, at that point, I had run out of baby shampoo and just used regular water. I thought it was water soluble. So we were going furniture shopping after that, and I had to stop at Walgreens and get baby wipes. And then all the stuff came off. But just make sure if you're going to do that, you can have it be washed off. If you get sprayed, just understand that there is a way to decontaminate yourself. Don't freak out. With that said, I hope everybody enjoyed this episode, these thoughts. I've got lineups coming up for other people who are going to be interviewed, and I hope everyone stays safe. Before I sign off, I will tell everyone that I have a new type of private lesson. I call it the cowboy lesson. Yeehaw! And you get to shoot a single-action revolver, a lever-action rifle, and a double-barrel Coach shotgun. All modern versions of Wild West guns, but you get to experience what the cowboys actually did. The cost for this is $125. It includes ammo, but not the range fee. If you're interested, you can always reach out to me via my electronic business card, which is www.marcusmelnick.com. That is MarcusMelnick.com. And if you like what I'm putting down range, I would encourage you to like, subscribe, and share this if you're watching it on YouTube. I'm always available for questions at same website, marcusmelnick.com. And until next week, stay safe. We have monthly concealed carry license CCL classes in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. Dates can be seen at firearmmentor.com/classes. If you have a question, we can be reached at www.firearmmentorcard.com. That is our electronic business card, has all of our contact information and links in it. It's the easiest way to get a hold of us. Until next time, stay safe out there, and I'll see you at the shooting range. This is Marcus Melnick from Firearm Mentor signing off. The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters.